Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
6 minutes before 8. My apologies to my next guest for keeping him waiting. It's not often Sir Peter Hendy, chairman of Network Rail, does an interview, so I'm sure he understands why I'm late. Coming to Conservative MP and Chief Secretary of the Treasury, Simon Clarke, who's going to be telling us all about an important financial support and benefits checker tool, which is launched today by the government. And I promise you, Mr. Clarke, I will ask a question on that. But first off, just in the light of the headline saying that the Daily Mail, summer strike plague spreads, and the rail strikes to carry on until the autumn. What is the government doing to try and ensure that this strike is halted in some way, and indeed we don't look at the so-called summer of discontent? Good morning to you, and apologies again.
Good morning, Nick. Well, we want to see negotiations that are underway between the employers and the trade unions succeed, and it is absolutely in everyone's interest that they should, because we want to see a rail industry which is affordable and sustainable for the rail workforce, but also for passengers and the wider taxpayer. And at the moment, we don't have a rail industry which is in the right place. It's come out of the pandemic with massive legacy issues which still have not been resolved in terms of some of the workforce practices, in terms of some of the way that the industry is structured. And unless those are reformed as part of a wider conversation around the new pay deal, then we're not going to have a rail industry which is sustainable, and we have to recognise that. We have to address it, and that's what the employers are working hard to do with the trade unions as we speak.
I hear you, Chief Secretary, but it would appear the unions are not for moving, and we inch closer towards strike action. The worst strikes on the rails we've seen in some 3 decades.
Yeah, well, we absolutely don't want to see that happen. It's going to cause misery for millions of people. The government is absolutely clear there is a fair deal to be done here, and we will do everything we can to enable that. But ultimately, the trade unions do need to reflect on the interest of their own members, because it is absolutely in the interest of the individual men and women who, work hard for the railways and really want them to succeed, that they aren't misled into thinking that there's some kind of double-digit pay offer that's going to be affordable, or that we can't have reform and that we can just carry on as normal, because neither of those things is true.
Let's come to the issue that you wish to discuss today, which is a new online tool that will help people work out exactly their income. What is it called? How does it work? How do my listeners avail themselves of it, Chief Secretary?
Well, if people go to costoflivingsupport.campaign.gov.uk, they will see a whole range of tools which allow them to understand the different forms of support that are available to them. So we've got the tax cut that's coming in July to national insurance, worth £330 for a typical worker. But we've also got all the support package that the Chancellor has put in place, which is worth £1,200 for 1 in 3 households in the UK, and £550 for most homes in the UK. And that's precisely because this is a very challenging time. We recognise a combination of both COVID and what Russia's done in Ukraine is pushing prices very substantially higher, and we're here to play our part in resolving that with the £37 billion package of support. It's against that backdrop, of course, that it is simply unsustainable for unions like the RMT to be making things worse by driving unrest, damaging the economy, and stoking unrealistic expectations, which actually, if they were realised, would prolong and intensify inflation.
But what are they meant to do if their members are going to the stores or the supermarkets or filling up their vans or buying motorbikes or cars, and the pound isn't going as far as it did? They're hit with inflation, if I understand, somewhere in the region of 8 to 9%, possibly double-digit within the next month or so. What is a union to do if not try and seek more pay, Chief Secretary?
Well, it's absolutely right that we want to see fair pay increases here. No one is talking, crucially, about some kind of pay freeze. No one is saying that.
But they're losing
across
money.
The whole
You're
of the public
economist,
sector.
Mr. Clarke, they are losing. Obviously, if we have inflation of 9-something%, they are effectively losing money if they don't get a pay raise of 9%. That's what they would argue.
Yeah, well, I think across the whole of the public and private sector, very, very few people are likely to be seeing inflation exceeding pay increases this year. And it is, if we want to bring this pressure down as quickly as we can, That's why discipline and restraint is so important now. If we don't, then we will entrench this, and it will keep on playing out over a number of years ahead. The challenge, and is a hard one, I completely accept, but it is the responsible thing to do, and that's why this government will do it, is to manage inflationary pressures downwards. The government has our role to play in terms of pay setting as part of that equation. Obviously, the Bank of England independently has its mandate through the policy levers at its disposal, notably interest rates, to try and do the same. We will work in tandem to try and make sure that this problem is resolved as quickly as we can. It is common to all Western economies, but we have it in our power as to how decisively respond to it, and that's what we're trying to do here.
But I don't need to tell you, Mr. Clarke, that many people listening to this, perhaps who live in Middlesbrough South and East Cleveland, will think, well, that's very easy for that bloke to say that. He's an MP, he's earning somewhere in the region of £140,000 a year. He's not making...
Not as much as that, I can assure you, Nick. But yeah, but I accept the point. I accept the point.
OK. He's not making £28,000, which is a guard on a railway makes. It's easy for you, Mr. Clarke, not easy for him or her, respectfully.
Well, look, no one is disputing, whatever, that this is a very, very challenging situation, but we are absolutely determined to try and make sure that we don't worsen the problem that we're facing across the whole of our economy. And that's the point I want to make it. Whatever level of salary you are on, it is not in your interest for us to have an inflationary spiral, and that is what we're working hard to prevent.
That doesn't put petrol in the tank or feed the children on the weekend.
No,
you know that, Mr. Clarke.
I do, and of course that's why we've put in place a package worth £37 billion, which is designed to make sure that families do have the support that they need. And for the 1 in 3 UK homes on means-tested benefit of any kind, that's worth £1,200 this year. That is a very substantial state package of support, and that more or less offsets entirely what the extra pressure on energy bills this year for a typical home.
I'm grateful for our time, thank you, and thank you for your candour as well. Chief Secretary of the Treasury, Simon Clarke, Conservative MP, appearing at 8 o'clock on LBC News Headlines. Simon Conway.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, the chairman of Net